Hey everybody, welcome to the Patreon Star Trek episode draft, which we're going to be doing today. We're going to be playing with some patrons. We have Christian. Christian, how are you?
I'm good.
He is.
Thank you.
Good. He's got baby in tow. We've got Jason. Jason, how are you?
I'm good. Good to be here.
And Sam, how are you at the bottom?
I'm great. Even though I'm on the bottom, I am fantastic.
I've cleverly arranged the windows to match our draft order here so people have an easy time following around. We're going to be drafting
Clever.
TNG's Season 3 episode. So a lot of Trek channels have done this. I know the Trek Live channel that I listen to has done drafts like this. We're going to be doing a fantasy draft of the Star Trek The Next Generation 3rd season episode. So we've got all the episodes over here on the left side of the screen, from Evolution all the way to Best of Both Worlds. And we're going to be drafting them like it's a fantasy draft, trying to build a team that is going to be voted on by the listeners and our Discord users. So we have Christian, me, Jason, Sam, and these are the categories. You're going to pick an episode for best episode, worst episode, most underrated episode, best sci-fi concept, most forgettable episode, and best episode with Guinan in it. And there are 8 episodes with Guinan in this episode.
Is that best Guinan episode or just
Best episode
an episode for
Guinan
any reason that happens to have Guinan in it?
Best episode with Guinan in it. And
Okay. So Guinan's role in it is not the main thing. Okay.
Not the main thing.
Got it.
It's kind of a wild card that I picked because
Yeah, it is.
one of these.
I didn't know how to interpret that, so it's the best episode. Got it.
The other ones are straight ahead. I think best sci-fi concept could be either the A plot or the B plot. You just think that there's a plot in there that is particularly interesting for sci-fi. Most forgettable is just, I defined this one as when you're looking at the list of titles, you go, what is that one? What happens in that episode? And episode with Guinan, just the best episode that has Guinan in it. So we're going to go up and down the line. I'm going to pick an episode. It's going to be wiped out from the list. The person is going to explain what their episode they're picking and which category it's going to go into. And then we will go down the line, and it's going to snake draft back. So it'll go Christian, me, Jason, Sam, Jason, West, Christian, West, Jason, Sam, all the way through until everyone has picked all of their picks, and there will be 2 episodes remaining at that point in time. So, gentlemen, are we ready for some fantasy Star Trek here?
We are ready.
All right, so
Let's
Christian,
boldly go, guys.
you can pick your first pick. Tell us what episode, what category, and you can give a little bit of an explainer as to why you chose that one.
Yeah, well, this should come as no surprise to anyone who really knows me. I'm going to pick for best episode, and I'm going to pick Yesterday's Enterprise. Yesterday's Enterprise is an amazing episode. It is almost entirely self-contained, but it tells a complete, cool, exciting story, appropriate use of action, really great character. There's so many subtle things that are like different about it, from Picard and Riker's dynamic to the uniforms to so much stuff about it. It's an amazing story. It is more self-contained than Best of Both Worlds, and it does not have a letdown second part. I mean, there's follow-ons to it, but Best of Both Worlds Part 1 is unfortunately followed by Best of Both Worlds Part 2, which is not bad, but Yesterday's Enterprise from beginning to end is an amazing episode, and it's possibly my favorite episode of Star Trek, at least of TNG.
Number 1 on my list, so I'm not gonna hold you down for your LeBron James pick with the number 1 pick here. It did knock off one of the possible Guinan episodes, and it's probably the best Guinan episode.
It really is the best Guinan episode, because without Guinan, no one would actually get out of that fucked up timeline. So they're stuck there.
Have fun with Deja Q, assholes.
A double whammy on that regard. So Christian picks Yesterday's Enterprise with his best episode. I am going to go with, I will also pick best episode, I think. And I will also, now I'm breaking my own rules. I think I'll go with most underrated, actually. I'll mix this up a little bit. I'm going to go with most underrated. I'm going to go with Sarek for most underrated. I think Sarek is a top 10 episode of TNG that's never, ever mentioned as a top 10 episode of TNG. I think that it is beautiful, heartbreaking, and a great continuation of the Sarek character. And I don't think it gets the praise that it deserves. So therefore, if you're a top 10 episode of TNG and no one ever talks about you, I think that you go into my underrated category.
Yeah, I have to admit, I did not even put it on my possibilities list for that category, but that's because I know it and I know that it's good, so it didn't even occur to me that it was possibly underrated. But you're right, not many people talk about it.
And just to remember, you're also kind of playing a little bit with what you think general public opinion is of these things, because they're going to be the ones voting for you. Jason, you're up next.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll take the low-hanging fruit then, and I'll pick best episode. And, actually, I would have maybe picked yesterday's Enterprise, but since Christian already took it, I'm going to go with Best of Both Worlds Part 1. I don't think there needs to be a lot of explaining there. It's a great episode. It's a classic. Maybe a little bit let down by its second half, but that first half is incredible. So
if we had a overrated category, I could see it being a dark horse. Some clever work going into it too. But it's a good solid choice. It would have been mine. If I didn't get clever with Sarek, I would have gone with Best of Both Worlds, I think.
Yeah.
It also takes out another Guinan episode.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, you're up.
All right. Well, we've covered pretty much almost all categories except, well, not all categories. We just got started when we talk about. Let's just go with another, in my opinion, low hanging fruit for worst episode. And I'm going to go with The Price. I just recently got my fiance watching TNG, and we've been going through a lot of season 3, and we watched this episode and we were bored out of our minds because the weird thing with a romance between Troy and this other slightly Betazoid guy, it's just ridiculous, and he's manipulating her. It does not age well, and I don't care about a subplot with Ferengi and going in a wormhole, and it's just dumb. The only good thing about this episode is that it has the division of the galaxy in Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta. That's it. Other than that, you don't need to watch this. It's the worst episode because of that.
It's an important revelation. It is,
but it has so much going on.
I like when he tries to kiss Troy and he like grabs her hair and just sort of
just like a really like misogynist hair, really combing. Yeah, really. Oh yeah, let's just talk about our love here.
He heard that you're supposed to put your hand like right here, but he's went.
Too close. not a Guinan episode though. Not a Guinan episode. So, Sam, after The Price is your pick is the worst episode, we're going to snake back so you get the next pick here, going backwards. So what's your second pick?
Let's see. Hold on. So I'm going to go with the best use of Guinan. Yesterday's Enterprise is pretty good with it all. Best of Both Worlds is fine with Guinan. I'm going to go with Hollow Pursuits on this one. Hollow Pursuits. Reason why is in my opinion, it's not like a Best of Both Worlds. It's a very low stakes kind of episode. It's very personal. And Guinan shines in that episode a lot because of the personal nature that she is. She's a better Troy than Troy is. Mm-hmm. And she basically talks to Geordi about, hey, just let up on the guy. He needs a friend. He needs to have someone that he can trust in and be confident with. And I think that's probably, in my opinion, the best use of Guinan in the entire show, and at least in this season. So Hollow Pursuits for me, that's got to be that one.
It would it's actually Hollow Pursuits with your pick of it made me think of another good category for this. If we were to do this again in the future, I think is episode I hated as a kid, but I like now. I think Hollow Pursuits is that. I think that episode ages well as you age. I think kids are bored by it, but I think it's a really good.
I liked it when I was
4. Yeah, you
shoot. I woke up. I woke up the little one. I liked it when I was a kid. I liked everything, so that's a low bar.
I didn't like Barkley when I was little, but
really
now as a character, yeah.
I liked it when I was younger.
Yeah, the only thing I liked was the fact that they did a great take, and I got it as a kid that Picard calls him broccoli. That's the only good bit, and of course I'm like, oh, well, that's funny. Whatever.
Good pick. That's I like that pick. I think that's fairly good. I can't say anything else but that. Jason, going back to you.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with best sci-fi concept, and I'm going to go with The Survivors for that, actually. And I just like the mystery of it. It's got a great mystery going on that kind of strings you along a little bit. And I also like that it has kind of one of these like more omnipotent Q, like godlike characters, but you don't realize that right away, that that's what you're dealing with. And there's some humanity to it, and some emotion, and just the concept is really good. I think it's a great sci-fi concept. So I'm going to go with that.
Cool. Good pick. Survivors was my option. Before I got, when I was getting cute, and I was going to put before Best of Both Worlds, and my best would be Survivors. I think Survivors is excellent. It could also be one of my underrated episodes, I think, too. I'm running out of time for my best because you've taken the top 4 episodes, so I'm going to go with what I think is the 5th best episode of the season and call it my best episode. It's The Defector, which I think is borderline second tier, but it's kind of up there. I think it's a really good Romulan episode. There's nothing wrong with it. It kind of sticks out because it's in a season filled with great episodes. It's not the best episode out of the top 5, but it's a solid choice, I think. So I'm going to go The Defector.
There's a great ending. That episode has a great ending too.
Yeah, it's weird for TNG, right? To see people kill themselves as an ending of an episode. But, Christian, you're up.
Oh dear. What do I have left? Boy. I think I'm gonna go because I think my other picks might still be there.
You have 2 in a row, remember?
Ooh, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna do this. So I'm gonna put best sci-fi concept.
Sorry, I'm missing a few over here. Am I not? What did I not cross off?
No, it's all right. I'm just waffling between 2 options. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
This is
what
hard.
Did I not cross off on the left here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No, I think you got it. Oh, Best of Both Worlds. The last one.
Thank you. There we go.
Oh yeah, the overrated that one. Yeah.
the overrated masterpiece.
I am going to say for my best sci-fi concept, although I would honestly put it in, if there was an overrated category, I'd probably put it here because I think it does have problems. But I think as a concept, Who Watches the Watchers is
where are you putting this?
Best sci-fi concept for Who Watches the Watchers for best sci-fi concept, because I don't know if it's the right work, but I don't know if it's a seminal work, but it's certainly a major kind of example of the kind of prime directive stories that TNG really tells. And I think it's the first really solid one that's at all solid. They've done stuff before, but there's so much hand waving and just like blatant disregard of it as well in TOS. It wasn't really a properly formed idea. And then I think in the first 2 seasons of TNG, there wasn't anything that was really concrete. And I think that it is a really good example compared to, let's say, The Communicator. It is a far superior prime directive episode. And it's a really cool sci-fi concept of, what if aliens came to a planet that wasn't ready for them and they thought they were gods? It's a very interesting idea. So I would put that.
Plus, it would be
there.
A great best Patrick Stewart stunt double episode.
Yeah.
The arrow. Kristen, your second pick after Who Watches the
My
Watchers.
second pick, I'm going to go most underrated. And I think that I am going to go with Deja Q.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Q episode. Q episodes. You either love Q episodes or you hate Q episodes. Q as has been correctly pointed out by Wes and Clay, the best Q episodes are the ones where he's like a moral barometer for the crew. So like Q-Who and to a lesser extent Encounter at Farpoint, but then especially in the I'm blanking. All Good Things. Those are very good. Those are the episodes everyone thinks about. But I don't think Deja Q gets quite enough credit for being a genuinely funny episode, a episode where we actually get to see something from Q that isn't like mindless, just fucking around, but also isn't his kind of normal stuff that Q does. And it's very funny. It's a decent Guinan. It's a decent Guinan episode because she shows up a little bit in it and gets to fuck around with Q.
Yeah, you're crippling our Guinan picks here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our hand of Guinan.
Yeah, and I still have to pick one. But I think it's a very solid episode that's not nearly as bad. I mean, there's so many far worse Q episodes that actually deserve some hate. I mean, it has a B plot, but it's the kind of B plot that you want. It doesn't take up too much time. It's kind of in the background. It's there to give an impetus to the rest of the story, and it ties in very nicely at the end without being. It's not obnoxious. The other big thing is it's not obnoxious. There are some Q episodes which are obnoxious. I don't find that one obnoxious.
Hey, for what it's worth, Christian, that was going to be one of my underrated as well. That's a good.
Oh, really?
It's a good pick.
Wow.
Yeah, I like it. It's just fun. I mean, it's just for sheer like rewatchability. It's up there for me.
Great Worf quote.
It's a strong contender for my forgettable episode. Interesting.
Wow.
Oh no! It's a great Worf quote. What must I do to convince you? Die.
So good.
Which is also unfair because my criteria, as I said, is that it's the episode where I look at the title and I don't know what it is, which one it is, and all the Q episodes are kind of that way. I'm like, which one is hiding Q? Which one is Deja Q? Which one?
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But it's the one where at the end Data gets to finally laugh, and it's a raw emotion that he feels, but of course he's calculated and he does not understand what that actually means. And we as the audience are like, dude, you're laughing for the first time ever. And of course it's, he can't figure that out. And it's a really nice way to end that episode.
For mine, you're kind of forcing my hand. So I think there's one clear good episode with Guinan in it left. So I'm going to pick the best episode featuring Guinan, and I'm going to go with The Offspring as my choice. This is mostly just because I think that the remaining two Guinan episodes are not particularly good in any way. So
No.
good luck with that. I'm going to try to steal the value when I can.
What happens if I don't have a Guinan episode left to pick?
You
MSOL?
You must suffer or die.
Offspring is my choice. There are only two left. Do you guys have a list of the Guinan episodes so you know what's out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I wrote them all down.
All right, that's it for me with The Offspring.
Oh man, you're making me feel like I need to pick a Guinan episode, but I really don't want to.
Well, Sam has two picks after you, and he's already picked his Guinan episode, so you have a little bit of leeway here.
So I got a little bit of leeway. So I'm going to go with most underrated, and I'm actually going to go with the most toys. I think that's a fantastic episode.
Good pick.
Great Data characterization. The end there where you're wondering if he's lying or not, basically, where he said, he doesn't know about pulling the trigger, and really good performances from the guest stars. That's a really good episode.
Good choice. Sam, you got two in a row here, and you don't have to deal with Guinan.
Thank God. All right, let's see. So I got to do sci-fi concept, and I got to do best. I got a lot of work to do. So let's go with. Let's go with best episode. I'm going to put in there Captain's Holiday. And it's maybe a weird choice at this point with all the stuff that we got left, but
I think it is.
But the point though is Captain's Holiday. It's not necessarily a best of both worlds type of situation, or Yesterday's Enterprise, or any of the things that we have for best episodes. But the reason why I picked it is because it's the Captain Gets Laid episode. And maybe I should preface it with that, but the fact that Picard does not get a break ever. He has a ship that has an actual place where he can go and vacation. which is the holodeck, and he doesn't do it. And so he finally takes it upon himself because people are like, hey, just go take this fucking vacation. Sorry. But he goes and takes the vacation, and adventure follows him anyway. It's fun. It's a little light. It's a little weird. There's a lot of scantily clad women. So if you're into that, it's fantastic that way. And they have a whole bunch of Horgons everywhere.
And Ferengi.
And Ferengi. And
Ferengi episode.
And time traveling weirdos. So there we go.
I do think Vosh is a good character, so
really?
I like it for that. Yeah,
And-
I like her.
yeah.
She's fun. She's a good foil for Picard.
And do they do it in the cave, right? They have
it's
to.
a
yeah.
They wake up in similar sleeping bags or something.
Yes,
Is the
yes.
network TV way to
Yeah.
do it.
So
there's
for
some-
getting the captain laid, I think that's okay.
There's something in the oral history talking about like when the writers were watching the dailies for that episode, they're like, wow, Patrick and the lady who plays Vosh are really like going at it in this kissing scene. And I guess he got divorced like a couple months after that had happened.
Oof.
Oh man,
Wes, was that really the best time to use the word oral history?
it was a very apropos. Sam, you got your second pick. You've got most underrated, best sci-fi concept, and most forgettable episode remaining.
Let's see. Most forgettable, most best sci-fi. I would say for best sci-fi concept. No, gosh darn it! What am I going to work with here? It's getting interesting in
It's
here.
very rough.
Yeah, no, everything. I'm looking at all these names. I'm like, oh yeah, this will be great. Have fun, they said. It'll be fun, they said. It'll be great. and now I'm looking at the list, and it's just so. Let's go with underrated. Yeah, sorry, I'm looking through it.
No worries. I mean, I can kill time until you do that, but it's most underrated, best sci-fi concept, most forgettable episode. We are in the solid C tier of episodes.
Yeah.
I think where you look at
Yeah,
it's quick how it's startling how quick the episodes fade away and turn into just that generic mush level.
yeah, they do. They do. So, and some of them have really good ideas, but the execution on them it's just so missing the mark, and it's kind of like that. Let's go with best sci-fi concept. Let's go with I'm going to go against what I was actually going to write, and I'm just going to go with this one for best sci-fi concept. Let's go with Allegiance. I think it's great that Trek it sometimes take a mirror onto itself. Like the characters are always exploring, but what if they're being explored themselves? Star Trek is a lens for looking inside ourselves a lot of the time. And finally, we have it on screen that someone else is looking on them in a very odd way. You have these aliens that are just like somewhere out there that are behind the wall, and they're probing Picard and the aliens or whatever, that they're trapped inside this little room. Shenanigans ensue. But then, of course, you have that awesome scene at the end where Picard is using nonverbal communication to like trap the aliens at the end. So for the fact that it's kind of like a spiritual successor to something like Who Watches the Watchers in some fashion, with that some aliens are watching us now, I think that's kind of cool.
Good justification.
I was like the B plot of that one actually too, with the fake Picard.
Yeah. Yeah, where he's all drinking and beer up my lads and all that kind of stuff. That's great. That's good.
Have a real visceral reaction to the little jelly discs that they eat.
Yes.
For food. For some reason, that always sticks with me that they had to eat those things. That's it. Jason, you're next, right? Because that was two for Sam. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't want to be stuck at the end without a gun.
Wait,
in an
actually,
episode.
never mind. Sorry, you're good.
So I'm going to have to pick one of these, and I'm just going to go with Evolution.
Okay.
Because it's actually, I don't think that's a terrible episode personally.
It's not.
And it's better than Booby Trap. So I'm going with Evolution.
Booby Trap is the remaining one. Evolution is Evolution's fine. I could almost see Evolution fitting into the forgettable episodes though. Like it takes a little bit of reminding what Evolution is, but it's not a bad episode. I think
it's got a
Booby Trap.
It's got Dr. Kelso from Scrubs in it, so
It does.
that gives it a plus.
It's the introduction of baseball into Star Trek too, isn't he?
Yeah.
The first character who's really like all up and about.
Yeah, he does all the games in his head kind of thing. Yeah.
All right, so for mine, I think I have to take at this point. I have to take what I consider to be the worst episode in the season, which I did a commentary track for recently on Patreon. It's the Vengeance Factor as my worst episode. The Vengeance Factor is truly horrible. It ends terribly. It has a pretty horrible sci-fi plot going on. Riker just murders that lady at the end for no reason when he could just grab her and sort of hold her back from touching that guy. It has terrible CG work where Patrick Stewart wasn't allowed to move when they had to do the special effects on top of him. So he sees a woman just get nuked in front of him and he just sits there and stares at it. The Vengeance Factor is just a whole bunch of bad LA biker gangs as an alien cult, and it's pretty much got everything wrong with it, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with the Vengeance Factor as my pick.
I think I'm in deep shit.
Well, you know you don't have to pick your Guinan episode because you're going to be stuck with something at this point.
Yeah, this is true. Unfortunately, the Guinan episode is a contender, depending on how you look at it. For
me, I'm not going to take that. If you're worried about me taking booby trap,
I think I can't risk it. So. See, I have a point where I could get on my soapbox, but I wouldn't be playing to the crowd if I got on it. I'm debating if it's worth it. I think I'm looking at worst episode, and I think there's a lot of contenders. I am not going to pick it, but I will say that I think that the high ground. You know what? I'm just going to do it. The high ground is a terrible episode. It is trying to be smart and make a point about a terrorist, and it has the gall to compare George Washington to, I guess, what I think they're saying is basically the IRA.
Yes.
It's a terrible episode that thinks it's being smart when it's being stupid. I'm pretty sure I could debunk that when I was 12.
It's a good take on terrorism pre 9/11. It's a very interesting.
I don't even think that I don't think it was a good take even at the time. People always say, well, what's the difference between George Washington and a terrorist? Well, George Washington was not a terrorist. At worst, he was a rebel. He won, so he's not a rebel. If he lost, he would have been a rebel. He is not a terrorist. There are differences, and it should be clear to anyone with a brain in the 21st century or the 19th century what the difference is. It's terrible. It has no point. It has a dramatic ending that's just kind of stupid. It muddles its message, and everyone has skunk haircuts. So I'm going to say that's the worst episode.
If there was a category best Beverly Crusher focused episode, you would have stolen the category, I think. I don't know if she has another episode this season.
Yeah.
So,
but that's the only one. So
yeah.
Well, see, even then it's that's going to be mine. I get another one, right?
Yeah, you do get another one. I'm surprised I was surprised that you said that you have a lot of contenders for worst episode, because I think it's kind of a tough season for worst episode. I think this is a lot of
well, there's ones that I could make a pitch for.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Your second one.
I'm going to say the best guy in an episode before someone tries to screw me is Booby Trap. Now, it was actually a contender for worst episode because Jordy is wildly not being cool.
Yeah.
But at least
that she's in Galaxy's Child, right?
The Galaxy's Child. But the good news is that at least in this one, it's just with a hologram. Not with the actual person.
Yeah, Galaxy's Child is probably worse for that.
It's a little weird, but I would say that the good parts of it is I like this idea of an ancient interstellar war. I like Picard's interest in it. Ships and bottles. the honestly, it's not a bad sci-fi concept to be trapped. This idea of being trapped in an energy absorbing radiation field that just absorbs everything you take at it, and you have to balance this clock at every attempt that you do shortens the time that you have. I think that it's a decent episode. There are certainly probably better episodes, but it's not a slouch.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go with most forgettable. I think there are two that are really obvious here for me. This is a very personal category, I think. But I'm going to go with the bonding as most forgettable because I can barely ever remember what happened in that episode. I know what it is, but I could not describe the plot to you or like why anything happens. And it's always a weird one. It always strikes me as weird that Ron Moore got his job from that script because I don't think it's particularly good. I'm going to go with the bonding as the most forgettable, mostly because I think I can make a pitch for sci-fi concept out of anything that's remaining on this.
Do you think that he got the job because he showed a character on the show actually showing grief for death of a loved one?
Well, Gene is still around.
And Gene probably hated it, and the other writer's like, "Oh, thank God, we got to get this guy."
This rebel without a cause. So that's mine, the bonding.
I think that is a pretty good forgettable one, Wes, because I actually, up until about 15 minutes ago, I actually was thinking it was a different episode than it was. For some reason, I was thinking it was that episode where that kid imitates Data, but that's Hero Worship from that season.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, no, that's not. That's the one where the mom. Yeah.
Well, thank you for making my case for me.
Yeah. It was a good case. Yeah.
It's so forgettable that doesn't like Worf and the kid have like a bonding ceremony like itself, and then
never
like
to be brought up again,
and then it never brings up again. Like I don't know, man. That's
whatever happened to Alexander's stepbrother. Worf is a terrible dad.
Jason, you're up next.
All right.
You have worst episode and most forgettable.
And most forgettable. Yeah, these two overlap. Honestly, for me, I'm going to go with worst episode. I'm going to go with Menage at Troy.
Boo.
It's just
Boo.
It's a bad DS9 Ferengi episode before DS9 Ferengi episodes were a thing. I just don't find it fun to watch at all, and it's got a stupid title.
No, that's a hilarious title. Take that back.
I can't disagree with what's left with that being a choice. I think that's all out of the ones that's left. Yeah. Sam, you got two in a row, and you're going to wrap up your team with these two picks.
All righty. So I have underrated and most forgettable. Underrated and most forgettable. All right, looking at the list. Okay, I think I got it.
Easiest category. What is your easier category to pick from? Personally,
I'm gonna go with underrated. I think underrated. I'm gonna go with The Enemy. And this is why I honestly have thought so many times of skipping over The Enemy as like that forgettable thing, and it's turned into for me that underrated episode. Because I have not watched that episode enough, and then over the course of about a couple years, seen it now and again. There are some really good things that happen in it. First, Geordi gets stuck on the planet, and he's got to figure out a way to get back up to the ship. Okay, whatever. But he finds a Romulan, and it's The Enemy. Oh, great, that's the title. But they have to work together. He's blind. That Romulan can only move his hands or whatever, but he can't, whatever. He can see. He can see, but Geordi
things. Yeah.
Yeah. Geordi can move, but he can't see. The Romulan can see, but he can't move. And it's like one of those, I don't know. It seems like a World War II story of like two gunners. Yeah. Like some weird fable type thing. So, and then of course you have a great little standoff on the ship between Picard and Tomalak, who is just like, oh, but we were just here just checking out this planet, and there's no way there's survivors on the planet. And it's some interesting political intrigue between two warring factions that are about to go to war, but it's okay because these two guys managed to work it down on the planet. So I guess we could probably manage to deal with our differences up here in space. So underrated for me is The Enemy.
Cool. So with most forgettable, what are you going to pick?
Most forgettable, Tin Man.
Tin Man.
I don't know why they just Tin Man. God, the idea of going out to see a space pine cone is beyond me. And I've never really watched the episode. I rewatched a few things last night, and one of them was this, and I should not have, because it is
a great name though. Tam.
Yeah, it is
psychic.
for sure. He just talks so freaking much. I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that, and I should have forgotten harder about that episode. It's overall it's just a little bit of a mess. But if you go through and you're like, oh, Tin Man, that sounds like kind of fun thing, like Wizard of Oz type thing. I don't know why they called it Tin Man, because there's nothing that actually relates to it. So when you go in there, you're like, oh, so it's like Heart of Stone, what's going on with this pine cone in space? So
He's just codenamed Tin Man, isn't he?
Yeah, that's all. That's all it is. And so it just feels like a weird title, like, ooh, Tin Man, like it's a cool catching title.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just like, oh, it's just this know-it-all who's just like, guys, you're about to get attacked. What? Boom. And then
kind of reminds me of I think I said this on the podcast. Silicon Avatar always made me think. It just makes me think of Data, because that's what it is supposed to be. But it's also makes you think of the crystalline entity. But Tin Man is kind of the same title. You think of Data when you think of Tin Man.
And that's what I thought it was going to be, but it's not. So yeah,
good choice. Tin Man, so you've wrapped yours up with best is Captain's Holiday, worst is The Price, most underrated is The Enemy, best sci-fi is Allegiance, forgettable episode is Tin Man, and best episode with Guinan is Hollow Pursuits. Good team. Jason, you're up next. I thought I had something to say here. Does anyone have a surprise episode that's remaining on the left hand? I'm shocked by one episode remaining, actually.
Is it Ensigns of Command or Transfigurations?
Yeah. Sins of the Father. It's still up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
actually,
good episodes.
Yeah, and that is a decent episode.
Every category could be best episode, and we wouldn't run out of picks.
Doesn't
true.
It's an episode that doesn't really fit into any of the categories, I don't think.
Yeah, it's not really the best.
It's
not really a sci-fi concept.
Everyone knows which one it is, and no Guinan. So
it's weird. Yeah, I avoided it a lot.
You're gonna wrap yours up with most forgettable.
Yeah, most forgettable. I think I'm actually going to go with Transfigurations.
Yeah, good choice.
Damn it, I was going to pick that.
That's one. That's actually one I watched recently, because I was like, and probably like you guys, I've seen all these countless times, but that's the one I'm like, man, I feel like I haven't watched that in forever. And there's probably a reason. It's not that good, but it is one of those where like I just forget about it all the time. Yeah. So
John Doe. I just remember him transforming. Oh, and I remember I was going to say about
transforming into a glowing full body sock with a giant dick shape.
A Jesus sock. That's a Jesus sock.
A Jesus sock with a very clearly defined crotch area.
Yeah.
The positive for Tin Man is the exterior space scenes in Tin Man are cool. Because there's a lot of Romulan, when the thing like turns around and it shoots everyone away from itself, it's kind of a neat.
Except that the counterpoint, the effect of the Romulan ship blowing up is literally the ship flies in, shakes in place, and then explodes.
Yeah,
you gotta save your budget somewhere.
Yeah,
best sci-fi concept. I'm glad my pick is still here. This episode was a contender for me for worst episode, because I think I have it. It's the fifth worst of the season, according to my listing. But the concept is fantastic. It's just terrible execution. It's a matter of perspective, which is
good choice.
Riker is accused of murder, and they recreate the scene on the
You're
holodeck.
a dead man, Apgar. You're a dead man.
And I did a commentary for that one too for the patrons. But that one, using the holodeck as a scene recreator for a murder mystery, is really probably the best use of the holodeck that they ever did.
Yeah.
The entire JAG Corps should be doing that.
They should.
Yeah,
the rest of the episode is terrible and it makes no sense plot wise, but it's going to be my choice for best sci-fi. So I'm going with A Matter of Perspective.
So it's just me, right?
Just you. You're wrapping up.
And what's most forgettable episode?
Yeah, sorry. Let me black these out here. Transfigurations. So you've got most forgettable. You have evolution, ensigns of command. Did I forget something?
No, evolution.
Evolution is gone.
Yeah, it's
Well, clearly, I would be a fool to pick Sins of the Father.
Yep.
And I think that Hunted is well enough in the memory of people. So I'm going to pick the one that,
I think you lucked out. I think you lucked out with that.
I think it did.
Good.
And my
Yeah,
pitch
good
is
pick.
going to be, the reason I left it for last is like, well, no one else has picked it because everyone else forgot about it.
I can never remember what happens in this episode. I think it's a
Picard
great
talks
episode.
to a slimy sock puppet. And
the new episode, the celiac or
Is it
whatever.
the Shellyak? Yeah.
Shellyak.
Shellyak, yeah.
Which the stuff with Picard and the Shellyak's pretty good in that, but it's really the
see
only
it go-
thing.
yeah,
Data's
has
down
a
on
bad-
the planet.
it has a bad habit of doing something where the steps that they go through to like get to that point are kind of all the same. It says try, fail, try, fail, try, fail. And
Yeah.
it's not super interesting. A lot of it ends up feeling a bit like filler. And about the only really bit that the only two good parts are when Data phasers the aqueduct and when Picard makes the Shellyak wait.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
It's not it just it is completely, it is so thoroughly average, it doesn't really stand out in any discernible way. Probably even more than those scenes, the thing that stands out is the fact that the main antagonist had every single one of his lines redubbed.
I confuse it with Thine Own Self because it's kind of similar.
Yeah, Data on a planet.
He's on a
Yeah,
planet where people wear
Yeah.
robes. It's somewhat dark and muddy, and he has to figure stuff out.
But Thine Own Self is the one where they kill him at the end, right? And then the crew
Yes.
has to go down and
Yeah.
beam him back out.
Yeah, and he loses his memory when he's down there. So
Yeah.
It's a fairly creepy
He doesn't
scene.
lose his memory in Ensigns of Command. What does he do? What is he doing down there?
My point.
Yeah.
He just goes down there to try to evacuate him. And again, it's
Oh.
another one of those things where try, fail, and each attempt is not interesting. It's like, well, we have to keep trying to show that he's trying, right? But there's not.
Right.
You're not learning anything. The sides, both the Shellyak and the guy, are so implacable as to not make it interesting.
the
There's
two
no
episodes-
meaningful
sorry.
debate.
The two episodes that were not picked were The Hunted and Sins of the Father. Continue to be surprised by Sins of the Father. Hunted kind
Sins of the
makes
Fa-
sense.
Sins of the Father was on my list of best episode. It was just down the list a ways.
Yeah.
As was The Hunted. I think The Hunted is pretty solid. It's not the worst.
Not
I don't think it's necessarily underrated. I don't think it could theoretically be a sci-fi concept, but it's not good enough. It's somewhat
It
just
teeters
above
on that.
average in
Yeah.
kind of lower episodes, and it doesn't have Guinan in it.
So when you're just a middling sci-fi concept, I guess you're kind of screwed for the selection process.
See, note, Danar didn't go to 10 forward because he knew that Guinan had that big ass gun behind the bar, so he didn't want nothing of that. So he just went elsewhere. That's why he didn't show up.
They also knew that we were going to be playing this game 25 years later, and they were like,
Exactly.
we can't
Yeah,
have the guy.
exactly.
All right, so let's go through this quickly. Christian has Yesterday's Enterprise as best, worst is High Ground, most underrated Deja Q, best sci-fi concept Who Watches the Watchers, forgettable is Ensigns of Command, best episode with Guinan Booby Trap. I have best episode The Defector, worst episode The Vengeance Factor, most underrated Sarek, best sci-fi concept Matter of Perspective, forgettable is The Bonding, and best episode with Guinan is Offspring. Jason has best episode is Best of Both Worlds. Worst episode is Menage a Troy. Most underrated, Most Toys. Best sci-fi concept Survivors. Forgettable is Transfigurations, and best episode with Guinan is Evolution. Sam again has best episode Captain's Holiday. Worst episode is The Price. Most underrated, The Enemy. Sci-fi concept Allegiance. Most forgettable is Tin Man, and best episode with Guinan, Hollow Pursuit. So the people are going to vote on this. Should we talk about whose list we like, or do you think that skews? I think that probably skews things. So we'll do that off.
We can do it offline.
We'll do
Yeah, we can do it
that
off.
sounds good. Yeah.
But for the record, mine is the best.
Guys, thank you very much. I'll put a link up on Twitter, and people can vote on the things there, who they think picked the best team. So when you're considering this, you have to look at the category and whose team best fits the categories. It's not just about which episodes you like, but which team actually fits these categories best. Someone doesn't have a running back playing wide receiver or something like that. That doesn't make any sense. That's it. And the winner will win Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for supporting the show, and thank you for doing this with me. It was kind of fun. It went better than I expected. It went very smoothly, so I appreciate
it was fun.
with that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Yeah,
guys. We'll be
I agree.
back. You can check this out, and we will see you later.